Hey, all you coders and developers out there. Are you tired of always feeling like you're behind the curve when it comes to AI?
It can definitely feel that way sometimes, right?
Well, today's deep dive might just be what you need. We're going to check out Janus-Pro 7B.
From DeepSeek.
Exactly. An open source AI model that's making waves in the image generation scene.
You might have heard about DeepSeek's R1 reasoning model, which is amazing in its own right.
For sure.
Yeah.
But Janus-Pro 7B, this one's doing some really impressive things, especially if you're a developer working with AI for image generation.
Yeah, it's kind of flying under the radar, but when you look at benchmarks like GenEval and DPG Bench, it's actually beating out some big names like
Yeah.
DALL-E 3 and Stable Diffusion.
That's wild. So let's get into it. What makes this model so special? DeepSeek calls it an innovative autoregressive framework.
Right, and to put that in simple terms, imagine you're trying to guess the next word in a sentence. You'd probably look at the words you've already seen, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, that's kind of what an autoregressive model does. But with images, it builds the image piece by piece based on what you tell it and what it's already created.
So it's like predicting the next pixel instead of the next word.
Exactly. And Janus-Pro 7B takes this even further. It actually separates the way it encodes visual information for understanding an image versus generating one.
So it's like having two specialized teams. One that's great at analyzing and understanding images, and another one that's a master at creating them.
Precisely. And they both work together seamlessly in a single unified architecture. But those encoding processes, they're kept separate, and there's a good reason for that.
All ears.
Well, a lot of multimodal models struggle with kind of an internal conflict between understanding an image and generating one. It's like they can't decide which task to focus on.
Ah, I see. So by separating those pathways, Janus Pro 7B can be great at both understanding and generating images.
Exactly. Which leads to better performance and more flexibility.
That makes a lot of sense. And it looks like they're using the SigLIP vision encoder for understanding and a specialized tokenizer for image generation.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, it's open source.
Oh, yeah. A lot of developers are going to love that.
Absolutely. Now, something else that caught my eye is that Janus Pro 7B is built on DeepSeek's existing DeepSeek LLM architecture.
Oh, that's a big one. For developers, that means it can be really easy to integrate with the tools and workflows they're already using.
That's huge. Saves time and effort, which we all know is precious.
Definitely. So we've got open source, we've got a familiar architecture, and it solves a big problem in multimodal models. What's not to love?
Right. This is shaping up to be pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, we haven't even talked about the three-stage training process and the massive data sets they used.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, the how behind this model is just as fascinating as the what.
Ah, you got my attention. Let's dive into those details.
Well, first, let's hop over to the Hugging Face page for Janus-Pro 7B. You'll see right away how they highlight the unified approach we were talking about. They're really upfront about designing it with developers in mind.
That's great. I always appreciate when the documentation is clear and easy to follow.
Yeah, for sure. It shows they put a lot of thought into making this model accessible.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get back to that three-stage training process. DeepSeek really went all out to optimize Janus Pro 7B. It's not just a minor update, it's a whole new level of training efficiency and performance.
It's like they had this grand vision and meticulously crafted each stage to bring it to life.
All right, I'm hooked. Let's break down these training stages and see what they did.
All right, so imagine this. A three-stage training process. Each stage is really carefully fine-tuned for maximum impact.
Okay, I'm picturing it. It's like they're building something really special step by step.
Exactly. So in stage I, they focus on training the adapters and the image head.
Yeah.
These are the parts of the model that are specifically responsible for generating images.
Got it.
And here's the interesting part. They actually spent more time on training for this stage, even though the core language model parameters are fixed.
So they're giving the model more time to learn the basics of image generation, even before they unleash the full power of the language model.
Precisely. It's all about building a strong foundation before moving on to the really complex stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. So what happens in stage 2?
Stage 2 is where things get even more interesting. This is where they do unified pre-training. All the components are trained together except for those specialized encoders for understanding and generation.
So it's like bringing the whole team together, but keeping those two expert teams, the understanding and generation folks, focused on their specific tasks.
You got it. And here's a key decision they made in stage 2. They decided to ditch the ImageNet data.
Wait, really? ImageNet is like the gold standard for image recognition training. Why would they move away from that?
That's a great question, and the answer really gets to the heart of what makes Janus Pro 7B so unique. See, ImageNet is great for teaching a model to recognize basic objects and patterns, but Janus Pro 7B is aiming higher. They want it to generate images from complex descriptions, not just identify simple objects.
So instead of spending time modeling pixel dependence on those basic ImageNet images,
Hmm.
they went straight for the more advanced stuff.
Exactly. They're giving the model more challenging material to work with right from the start.
It's like skipping drawing 101 and going straight to advanced portraiture.
That's a perfect analogy. This shift allows for more focused and efficient training in stage 2, streamlining the process and leading to better results. Then in stage 3, they fine-tune everything, even unlocking the understanding encoder for training.
So they're bringing it all together.
Exactly. And in this stage, they adjusted the data ratios, pulling back a bit on the text-image data. They wanted to make sure there's a good balance between understanding and generation.
So they don't want the model to become too specialized in one area at the expense of the other. They're looking for that sweet spot between different capabilities.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about the massive data expansion they did. They added a whopping 90 million new samples for multimodal understanding. That means they included all sorts of visual information, image captions, tables, charts, even document understanding data. It's like they gave the model a crash course in visual literacy.
Wow, that's a serious upgrade.
Yeah.
So now the model can not only understand what you're asking for, but also create amazing images that match your description.
You got it. And to top it all off, they scaled the model itself to 7 billion parameters. It's like giving the model a bigger brain, allowing it to process and generate even more complex information.
Bigger and better.
Mm.
It's amazing how all these pieces fit together. The training strategy, the data scaling, the model architecture. It really shows how much thought and effort went into this project. But with all this technical detail, I'm wondering, what do these improvements actually mean for developers? How do they translate into real-world benefits?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We'll dive into that next. Yeah, so we've talked about the model's architecture and how DeepSeek trained it, but now let's see how it actually performs. That's where those benchmarks come in, right?
Exactly. They give us a way to compare Janus-Pro 7B to other models and see where it really excels.
Let's start with Bench. This one tests how well a model understands visual information.
So it's testing if it can actually see and interpret the world like we do.
Yeah, pretty much. It covers things like image captioning, visual question answering, even document understanding.
So a high score on Bench means the model can handle different types of visual information and understand the relationships between images and text.
Right. And Janus-Pro 7B scored as 79.2, which is amazing,
Mhm.
especially when you consider that it outperforms some models that are way bigger.
It's like the underdog story of AI.
Totally. Now let's look at GenEval. This benchmark is all about generating images from text prompts.
Because it's testing how well the model can translate words into visuals.
Exactly. And it looks at things like how well the model captures details like object placement colors and even complex relationships between objects.
And Janus-Pro 7B got a leading score of 0.80 on this one. Even beating out models like DALL-E 3 and Stable Diffusion. That's impressive.
It really is. It means you can give Janus-Pro 7B some pretty detailed instructions, and it's going to create an image that matches what you're looking for.
So this level of control must be a game changer for developers.
Absolutely. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities for creating unique and custom images. But what about those super long, really detailed prompts?
The ones that are like a whole paragraph of instructions.
Exactly. That's where DPG Bench comes in. It tests how well a model can handle those super dense prompts.
So it's like the ultimate test.
Pretty much. And Janus-Pro 7B aced it. It got a score of 84.1 Hass, which shows it can handle even the most demanding requests and still generate accurate and coherent images.
So this model is not only innovative, but it's also a top performer in real-world tasks.
And to make it even better, it's open source.
Which means developers can experiment with it, adapt it, and use it in their own projects.
Exactly.
So for all you developers out there, if you're looking for a powerful and flexible tool to step up your AI image generation game, you should definitely check out Janus-Pro 7B. It's a great example of what's possible when the open source community comes together to push the limits of AI.
Couldn't agree more. This deep dive has been a really interesting look at this cutting-edge technology.
It really has. And who knows, maybe the next big breakthrough in AI is going to be built using Janus-Pro 7B. So go out there, experiment, explore, and see what you can create.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Janus-Pro 7B. Until next time, keep coding, keep creating, and keep exploring the amazing world of